So let's start with the text of the Second Amendment and then start with the Revolutionary Era. So the text says, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." So could you give us a sense of the period by describing what a firearm in the 18th century would be like?
Well, this is a fascinating subject because there's been a lot of historical controversy over the level of armament in 18th century America. We have a lot of good recent scholarship finally on this topic, and we can say that the founders lived in a society in which guns were obviously important. They had important functions for self-defense, for public defense, for farming, for pest control. Among the gentry, they sometimes were used to settle matters of honor. So guns are an important part of the society, but not everyone in the society has equal access to every kind of gun. For instance, pistols, the antecedents of today's handguns, were generally kind of expensive and more likely to be owned by members of the gentry, people living in urban areas where you needed maybe to, you couldn't lug around a rifle or a musket. Farmers generally wanted to have fowling pieces, which are kind of the antecedents of a shotgun. And of course, military units required muskets, which are heavier, bigger bore, and could take a bayonet. Because in 18th century fighting, once you fire that first shot, by the time you've got that off, you often find that you have an army rushing at you. And so if you don't have that bayonet, if you just have a turkey gun, you're in serious trouble. So one of the things we now know is that Americans, not surprisingly, wanted guns that were useful to them, and they felt like owning these heavy military-style weapons were not most advantageous if you're an average farmer. And so actually the government had to work hard to get those kinds of weapons into the hands of the people who needed them, which is, say, people who would be part of the well-regulated militia. And so many states required people to own a musket, and they were forever trying to get people to live up to that obligation.